You know that feeling, that deep, undeniable comfort of coming home, the place where every creak, every scent whispers you're safe, you belong. Well, for me, that feeling just vanished in one terrifying moment. I remember it so vividly. The hospital discharge, the relief of finally breathing fresh air after what felt like an eternity. I was still a bit wobbly on my feet. Honestly, the recovery from surgery was a lot. But my heart was soaring. I was going home. My own home. The house I'd built, brick by brick, memory by memory. I finally reached my front door. The familiar blue paint, the wreath I'd hung myself. And I reached into my purse, my hand trembling ever so slightly with a mix of fatigue and pure anticipation. My key, the one I'd used for decades. It just didn't fit. It slid in, yes, but it wouldn't turn. It was like trying to put a puzzle piece where it clearly didn't belong anymore. My fingers fumbled, my heart started to pound. A slow, unsettling rhythm in my chest. A wave of confusion washed over me. Had I used the wrong key? No, impossible. This was my key. Then a cold, hard truth began to settle in my gut. A chilling whisper that sent a shiver down my spine, far colder than the spring air. The lock. It had been changed. Someone had changed the lock on my house. The physical pain from the surgery seemed to fade into the background, completely overshadowed by this sudden, profound sense of bewildering dread. My home, it wasn't my home anymore, and I didn't even know why. That moment, that feeling of being an outsider looking in, was just the very first tremor. What happened next, honestly, I still struggle to fully comprehend. It began with a phone call. A call that shattered my world into a million pieces. If you've ever felt that chilling jolt of unexpected betrayal, that deep, unsettling feeling of something being terribly wrong, then you're exactly where you need to be. Hit that like button right now, and let me know in the comments below if you've ever experienced a moment that completely knocked your world off its axis. Your story matters, and you're not alone. That changed lock, that chilling silence at my own front door, it was merely the opening act. The true, soul-crushing devastation. The kind that utterly rips your world into unrecognizable pieces. It landed heavy and brutal with a seemingly simple phone call. A call to the one person, the only person, I believed deep in my heart I could always count on. My son. My hands were still shaking uncontrollably. I remember that feeling so incredibly clearly. My entire body ached with a dull, persistent throb from the surgery and the long recovery. But the sudden, icy chill that was now spreading through my heart was far, far worse. Standing there truly abandoned, locked out of my own sanctuary, the only thing that flashed through my mind, the sole desperate thought, was to call him my son, my only child. The one precious person, truly, who should have been instantly alerted, should have known exactly where I was, what I'd been through, should have been eagerly waiting for me to step back into my home, his home. I slowly, painstakingly dialed his familiar number, my fingers fumbling awkwardly on the smooth screen, feeling strangely numb. It rang and rang and rang, each chime stretching into an agonizing eternity. And then, oh then, he finally picked up, his voice. It sounded so utterly normal at first, so maddeningly casual. I took a deep, shaky breath, trying with every ounce of my being to sound calm, to explain the bewildering situation. Son, I began, my voice a thin, fragile whisper. It's Mom, I'm home, but the locks are changed. What in the world happened? Why can't I get in? And then, the silence. A cold, long, utterly echoing silence on the other end of the line. It stretched. And stretched. until I thought my heart would burst from the suspense, and what he said next. Oh, it wasn't just words. It wasn't a simple misunderstanding. It was a brutal, bone-shattering hammer blow, delivered straight, directly to my soul. He laughed, a hollow, chilling, utterly dismissive laugh that pierced through me, colder than any winter wind. Mom, he scoffed, his voice laced with an unbelievable disdain. Who is this, really? My mother is. She's gone. She passed away. You must have the wrong number. Or are you some kind of heartless scammer, trying to pull a fast one on a grieving son? The phone, it felt like a heavy block of ice suddenly, painfully fused to my hand. My entire world. It didn't just crack. Oh no, it shattered, into a million tiny, sharp, agonizing pieces, his words. She's gone. Scammer, they echoed in my ears, bouncing off the cold, locked door. Louder, far louder than any physical pain I'd felt from the surgery. I stood there, utterly numb, leaning weakly against the unyielding, cold doorframe of my own house. Tears streaming down my face now, hot and stinging, mixing painfully with the sudden, sharp, indifferent rain that had begun to fall. I tried desperately to speak, to scream, to plead, to somehow anyhow make him believe me, but no sound, no coherent word came out. My voice was just gone, lost in the abyss of his rejection. That's when the horrifying, the utterly crushing realization truly, completely set in, hitting me with the raw, brutal force of a tidal wave. 3 weeks. I had been lying in that sterile hospital bed for 3 long, isolated weeks. And not a single call, not a single visit, not a single text message, not from him, not from any friend, not from any neighbor, not from anyone. I was utterly erased, completely, meticulously, horrifyingly. It was as if I had simply ceased to exist, vanished, disappeared from the face of the earth, for the very people who should have cared for me the most. The pain of that erasure, it was deeper than any physical wound. Standing there, utterly abandoned, feeling truly invisible, locked out of my own life, my own home. My mind, against my will, began to replay every cherished memory, every profound sacrifice I'd ever made. Every tender moment irrevocably tied to those now unyielding walls. And that's when the true, agonizing journey into the past, and the shocking reality of my present, truly began. The cold, locked door, the cruel words on the phone, they weren't just a physical barrier. They were a sudden, brutal key unlocking a flood of memories, and in that moment my home became a ghost, haunting me with its past. Standing there on that familiar doorstep, feeling so utterly alien, my mind, almost instinctively, began to play a cruel slideshow of everything that house had ever been. Oh, how vividly I remembered. Every single brick, every single floorboard, had been laid with my own hands, with my husband's dreams, with the hope of a beautiful future. This wasn't just a house. This was the sanctuary where I'd raised my son. The very child who had just denied my existence. This was where I'd spent countless sleepless nights, lovingly rocking him back to sleep. This was where I'd celebrated milestones, nursed heartbreaks, cooked countless meals filled with love. This was the place where every single corner held a piece of my soul, etched into its very foundations. I could almost feel the warmth of the old fireplace during winter nights. See the sun streaming through the kitchen window during lazy Sunday mornings. Hear the faint echoes of laughter, of arguments, of the quiet hum of family life. This house, it wasn't just my property. It was the physical embodiment of my entire life's work. My unwavering dedication, every single sacrifice I had ever made. I remembered the years I'd tirelessly worked, taking on extra shifts, scrimping and saving, just to pay off the mortgage. Every single cent was soaked in my sweat and tears. I remembered the endless hours spent caring for my son, nurturing his dreams, pouring every ounce of my being into him, always putting his needs before my own, always believing I was building a solid, loving foundation for our future. And now, here I was, standing outside, an outsider, looking in through windows that felt like opaque mirrors, reflecting back only a distorted, fractured image of myself. My own house, yet I couldn't step inside. It was like living a waking nightmare, a cruel, twisted joke. The physical ache from the surgery felt like a distant murmur compared to the raw, visceral agony of this betrayal. How could the place that held all my most cherished memories now be the very symbol of my deepest pain and profound rejection? It was in that moment, as I stared at my own reflection in the window pane, a woman disheveled, tear-streaked, utterly lost, that a chilling thought pierced through my despair. They hadn't just changed the locks. They hadn't just forgotten me. No, in their minds, in the eyes of my own son, I was dead. I had been actively erased. My entire life, my contributions, my very existence, wiped clean. And that realization, that being deemed gone by your own flesh and blood, that was a different kind of death, a far more agonizing one. The weight of that truth, it was crushing. It felt like the air had been sucked right out of my lungs. To be standing here, alive and breathing, yet treated as if I had simply vanished from the face of the earth. To be seen as a phantom, a scammer, by the one person I had loved, nurtured, and sacrificed for more than anyone else in this world. It was an insult to my very being, a complete negation of every single memory, every single moment we had shared within those walls. The pain was beyond words. It was a silent scream trapped deep inside my soul. For a moment. Just a brief, terrifying moment. I truly felt myself sinking into that abyss of despair. But then, something flickered. A tiny, stubborn spark. And in that moment, standing defeated on my own doorstep, a completely new kind of resolve began to ignite within me. This was not an end. This was something else entirely. Standing there, utterly broken, staring at my own distorted reflection in the cold glass of my home, for a fleeting moment, I felt like the world had truly swallowed me whole. But then something profound shifted deep inside me. It was like a tiny, insistent spark igniting in the darkest corner of my soul. The pain was suffocating, honestly. The betrayal, the utter dismissal from my own son. It felt like a physical weight pressing down on my chest, making it so hard to breathe. For a moment, just a desperate, terrifying moment, I thought about just giving up, walking away, letting them have it all. What was the point? My body still ached, my spirit was shattered. Who was I to fight back against this overwhelming injustice? But then, almost as if a voice whispered from somewhere deep within my weary soul, a fierce, unexpected surge of defiance ignited. It was a clarity that cut through the fog of despair. I looked at my reflection again, this time with a different kind of intensity. This wasn't the end. This absolutely, categorically, was not the end for me. No, this was going to be my beginning. A new beginning, a raw, painful, but incredibly powerful new chapter. I wasn't just a victim anymore. I was a survivor, and I was damn well going to fight. It was a monumental decision, truly. Like a switch had been flipped, the fear, it didn't vanish completely, no. But a stronger emotion, a burning sense of righteous indignation, surged to the forefront. I remember thinking, they thought I was gone. They thought they could erase me. Not on my watch. This wasn't just about a house anymore. This was about my dignity, my identity, my entire existence being validated. I would not accept this cruel fate. I would not be silenced. I would not be erased. The very first step felt daunting, truly overwhelming, but it was absolutely essential. I knew with every fiber of my being that I couldn't do this alone. I needed help, legal help. I needed to understand what had truly happened, how this could even be possible. So, despite the lingering physical weakness and the emotional exhaustion, I gathered every last ounce of my courage. I found a way to reach out, to search for someone who understood the law, someone who could guide me through this labyrinth of betrayal. That decision, to seek legal counsel, that was the first, incredibly powerful act of reclaiming my own narrative, my own power. And here's the truly astonishing part, the little spark of hope that kept me going. Even though I felt utterly stripped of everything, the house, legally, was still undeniably mine. They hadn't managed to completely erase my ownership. That single, cold, hard legal fact was the tiny, unexpected lifeline I desperately needed. It proved that despite their attempts, I was still, unequivocally, the rightful owner. It gave me a foundation to stand on, a solid ground from which to launch my fight. This realization was like a shot of pure adrenaline. It transformed me. From a woman weeping on her doorstep, I became a strategist. I still hurt deeply, but now I had a mission. My fight wasn't about bitterness, not entirely. It was about justice. It was about sending a clear, resounding message. You cannot simply erase someone. You cannot steal a life's worth of dreams and sacrifices. I decided firmly that I would not simply take the house back to live in it again. The memories, the betrayal, they were too painful. But I would absolutely, under no circumstances, allow them to simply take it. This was my property, my legacy, and I would regain control. I would protect what was rightfully mine, even if it meant turning a new page in a completely different direction. With that newfound resolve, and armed with legal guidance, I began the meticulous, often emotionally taxing process of reclaiming my legal rights. And soon, the day came when the tables would finally, powerfully turn. A day that revealed a shocking truth to those who thought they had won. That tiny spark of defiance, that sudden, burning resolve to fight back, it led me to the daunting doorstep of the legal world. And that's where the real battle began, not with shouts, but with documents and unwavering determination. Finding a lawyer felt like navigating a dense, unfamiliar jungle, honestly. I was still recovering, still carrying that invisible weight of betrayal, but I knew I couldn't falter. I desperately needed someone who not only understood the law, but more importantly, understood my story. Someone who could see the profound injustice I was facing. When I finally sat across from her, a sharp, empathetic woman whose eyes held a deep sense of justice, I poured out everything. Every agonizing detail, every painful memory, every confusing twist. I watched her face, searching for any sign of disbelief, but all I saw was a growing understanding, a quiet determination mirroring my own. And then came the moment that breathed fresh air back into my suffocating world. After reviewing my documents, my lawyer looked at me, a calm, steady gaze in her eyes, and confirmed the one fact I desperately clung to. "The house," she said, "is unequivocally still legally yours." Oh, the relief, it wasn't just words. It was like a giant, invisible weight had been lifted from my shoulders, revealing a solid ground beneath my feet. This wasn't a lost cause. This wasn't some fantasy. This was my property. The legal proof was undeniable. That confirmation was everything. It was the ammunition I needed. We immediately began to strategize, meticulously planning every single move. The first step was to formally terminate any power of attorney that might have been granted, severing any legal ties that allowed him, my son, to act on my behalf without my knowledge or consent. This was crucial. It was like closing a gaping wound, preventing further damage. Then, the formal warnings. My lawyer began sending carefully worded legal letters, official notices, letters stating that I, the rightful owner, was back. Letters demanding immediate cessation of any unauthorized occupation. Letters that left no room for misinterpretation. It felt incredibly empowering, honestly, to know that these official documents, these pieces of paper, carried the full weight of the law, cutting through all the lies and deceit. It wasn't just me speaking anymore, it was justice itself. And here was the truly decisive move, the unexpected strategic play that would truly deliver the message. We decided to immediately list the property for rent. Not for sale, no, for rent. This wasn't about selling it off quickly. This was about firmly, irrevocably, establishing my undisputed control. It was a clear, unambiguous statement of ownership, visible for the entire world to see. It was a brilliant power play. The house was now actively on the market, but not for them to benefit from. This decision solidified my new stance. I wouldn't return to live in that house again. The memories, the betrayal, they were far too painful, too tainted. But I would absolutely, under no circumstances, allow it to be stolen or held hostage by those who thought I was gone. This house, my house, would serve a new purpose under my terms. This wasn't about revenge, not truly. It was about principle. It was about reclaiming what was mine, not just for myself, but as a testament that you cannot simply erase a person's existence or seize their life's work. This legal battle wasn't just about property. It was about asserting my rightful place in the world. The wheels of justice turned slowly, sometimes agonizingly so. But turn they did. And eventually, the day came when my strategy would finally hit home in a way that those who had wronged me least expected. The moment of reckoning was finally at hand. The legal battle, the meticulous planning, it all built up to this one unavoidable moment. The day the truth, raw and unyielding, would finally land on their doorstep. And believe me, it was a moment I had envisioned and dreaded for weeks. The real estate agent called me, her voice buzzing with professional excitement. "We've got tenants, Mrs. Matt. They're moving in next week." My heart, which had been so guarded, did a strange flutter, not joy, not exactly. More like a quiet, resolute satisfaction. This was it, the final, undeniable step in reclaiming my legal power over the house. I knew deep down that this news would inevitably reach my son, and I waited, patiently, almost holding my breath. The call came just a few days later from the real estate agent again, but her tone was different. "Mrs. Matt," she said, a hint of unease in her voice, "your son, he just showed up at the house. He's quite upset. He actually tried to demand keys from the new tenants." Oh, the sheer audacity. My blood ran cold, then simmered with a quiet fury. He actually believed he still had some claim, some inherent right, after what he'd done. The sheer arrogance of it was breathtaking. I could almost picture his bewildered face, confronting strangers in what he still believed was his empty kingdom. Then, the confrontation. Not directly with me, not yet. But the new tenants, bless their hearts, were incredibly confused and understandably quite upset. They called the police, actually, reporting a disturbance. And that's when my son, for the first time, truly faced the stark, undeniable reality of his actions. He stood there, sputtering, trying to explain away why he was the rightful occupant, not these strangers who had a legitimate lease. The police, of course, sided with the legal tenants, with my tenants. The humiliation must have been utterly crushing for him, standing there on the very lawn he thought was his, being told he had no right to be there. And then the phone rang. It was him, my son. His voice wasn't the scoffing, dismissive tone from the hospital. No, this was a frantic, enraged, utterly desperate sound. "Mom, what have you done?" He screamed. "Why are there strangers in my house?" The sheer audacity. The complete lack of self-awareness. It was a true mini-twist of fate for him. He genuinely believed this house was his to command, his to profit from, even after discarding me. He hadn't just forgotten me. He had actively erased me from his mental map of reality, even down to my property. I took a deep, steadying breath. I didn't scream back. I didn't cry. My voice, surprisingly, was calm. "It's my house," I told him, each word deliberate, unwavering. "It always has been, and now it's rented, legally." He tried to interrupt, to spin tales, to blame me, to deflect. "But Mom, I thought you were." "I mean, you were sick, I thought." He stumbled over excuses, tried to paint himself as the victim, the confused son. But I held my ground. I didn't need his explanations. I didn't need his belated apologies. The damage was done. The truth was out. The hard lesson was being delivered, not by a lecture, but by undeniable reality. The conversation was short. Brutally so. I explained calmly that the power of attorney was revoked, the house was mine, and it was now generating income under my control. He was left with nothing but the bitter taste of his own choices. He had gambled on my presumed absence, on my death, and he had lost everything. He had to accept the cold, hard fact. The control he thought he had seized, the future he had planned for my property, had been utterly stripped away. The house, once his perceived prize, had become a symbol of his colossal misjudgment. That day, the day he confronted his mistake, was a pivotal turning point. For him, it was the start of a bitter truth. For me, it was the beginning of a profound healing. A journey towards a new kind of freedom, far beyond the walls of that house. The confrontation at the house, that raw, unvarnished moment of truth, it was undeniably painful. But surprisingly for me, it wasn't an ending. It was a beginning. The first, incredibly powerful step on a journey I never expected. My journey to heal. After that day, my son, he tried, of course, he tried to reach out. Messages, calls, desperate attempts to explain himself, to justify his actions, to somehow twist the narrative back in his favor. But something in me had fundamentally shifted. The pain was still there, a deep, aching wound, but the anger, the raw need for answers. It had begun to recede. I didn't respond. I chose silence. Not out of malice, no. But out of a profound, self-preserving need for peace. I realized that responding, engaging, would only keep me tethered to the very pain I was fighting so hard to escape. My healing wouldn't come from his words, but from my own inner strength. It was a conscious act of self-care, a fiercely protected boundary for my soul. And with that newfound silence, an incredible sense of liberation began to blossom. It was like shedding an impossibly heavy skin. For so many years, my life had been defined by duty, by responsibility, by the weight of others' needs. The house, my son, their lives, they had become my entire world. But now, stripped of all those expectations and burdens, I found myself in a truly uncharted territory. It was terrifying, yes, but also exhilarating. I began to discover a profound sense of peace in a new living space, a smaller, cozier apartment that felt truly mine, free from the ghosts of betrayal and heavy memories. It was a blank canvas for a new chapter. This newfound freedom wasn't just about physical space. Oh no, it was about rediscovering myself. I started doing things I hadn't had time for in years. Reading, painting, taking long walks in nature. I realized that by letting go of the old responsibilities, the old narratives, I was creating space for something truly beautiful to grow. I began seeking connection, but on my terms. I found solace and strength in connecting with other women who had faced similar betrayals, who had been overlooked, underestimated, or hurt. We formed a small, incredibly supportive community, sharing our stories, healing together, finding laughter amidst the tears. And in that shared space, in that new sisterhood, I found something truly unexpected: my own voice again. My confidence, which had been utterly shattered, slowly but surely began to return. I realized that my value wasn't tied to a house or to a son's recognition. It was inherent. It was always there. This wasn't just a story of losing a home. It was a profound tale of reclaiming my entire life, rewriting my destiny, and stepping into a power I never knew I possessed. I wasn't just surviving, I was thriving. And I was living life exactly on my own terms, finally. I found incredible peace in this new chapter. There was no longer a need to prove anything to anyone. The bitterness faded, replaced by a quiet gratitude for this unexpected, albeit painful, path to freedom. It was a journey of profound self-discovery, learning to truly value myself, independent of external validation. My heart felt light, truly light, for the first time in what felt like forever. My journey, from the locked door to this newfound peace, has been a testament to the incredible resilience of the human spirit. And it brings me to the core lesson I want to share with each and every one of you. Because your story, in whatever form it takes, holds profound power. It's about recognizing your own inner strength. My journey, from a locked door and a broken spirit, to finding a new kind of freedom and peace, it's been an odyssey. But what's the biggest, most crucial lesson I've learned that I want to share with each and every one of you? You know, through every tear, every legal battle, every quiet moment of rebuilding, one profound truth crystallized for me. It's this: the world, sadly, will sometimes throw things at you that feel utterly overwhelming. People, even those you love most, might disappoint you, abandon you, or try to erase you. You might find yourself locked out, literally or figuratively, from what you thought was yours. But here's the absolute, unshakable core of it all. Your true power, your ultimate security, doesn't lie in external things like a house, or even in the validation of others. It lies entirely within you. This is the deepest lesson of my life. You are your own most powerful talisman. Your self-awareness, your unwavering belief in your own worth, and your refusal to be defined by someone else's rejection, that is your untouchable shield. When you truly know who you are, when you stand firmly in your truth, no external force, no betrayal, no locked door can ever truly diminish your spirit. This isn't just about reclaiming a house. It's about reclaiming your very essence, your right to exist fully and powerfully. If you have ever felt small, if you have ever been dismissed, if your voice has ever been silenced, or if you've been made to feel invisible or gone by someone you trusted, please, hear me now. You are not alone, and you are absolutely, unequivocally not defeated. Your story, your pain, your resilience. It holds immense power. It's time to realize that you have the right, the strength, and the inherent value to reclaim your narrative, to assert your voice, and to fiercely protect your rightful place in this world. The profound revelation for me was that the very act of fighting back, of standing up for myself when I felt weakest, didn't just win a legal battle. It ignited a fire within me that transformed everything. It wasn't about vengeance. It was about validation. It was about proving to myself that I mattered, that my life mattered. This journey, born from betrayal, became the unexpected catalyst for finding my deepest strength and my most authentic self. The freedom I found on the other side was far more valuable than any property. So, if any part of my story has resonated with you, if it sparked a flicker of recognition or inspired you to find your own strength, I invite you to share your thoughts. Your experiences, your struggles, your triumphs, they are all powerful. Please comment below with your reflections. Let's create a space where unspoken stories can finally be heard, where voices that were once silenced can rise. And if you want to join a community dedicated to empowerment, to reclaiming our narratives, and to finding profound strength through life's unexpected challenges, please like this video and make sure to subscribe to this channel. We are building a sanctuary for resilience, for truth, and for helping each other reclaim our incredible lives. Don't miss out on future insights and empowering stories. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for walking this journey with me today. Remember, your power is limitless, and your story is your shield. Until next time, stay strong, stay true, and keep reclaiming your magnificent life.